My sister calmly said. "You're not the owner anymore. Lock the door." But 1 week later, the first time I understood my sister liked doors more than people was the day she replaced the front lock without telling me. It was a Tuesday in late March, still cold enough that the tile in the entryway bit through socks. I came home with 2 grocery bags cutting into my fingers, the receipt curled like a dead leaf at the top. I turned my key, felt it catch, and tried again. The key slid in like it belonged, then refused to turn, as if the metal had forgotten what it was made for. I stood there long enough for my arms to start trembling, then set the bags down and knocked. Mara opened the door a few inches, just enough for me to see the clean line of her eyeliner and the way her jaw stayed loose like she'd practiced being unbothered. "Oh," she said, like she hadn't expected the person who paid the mortgage to be on the porch. "You're back! My key isn't working!" She smiled, small and tidy. "Yeah. I had the locks changed." "Why?" "I'll explain later." Her eyes flicked down at the grocery bags. "You can bring those in. The weather's gross." She stepped back as if she were doing me a courtesy, and I carried the bags through the narrow opening. Inside, the house looked exactly like it always did. A modest 2-story in a cul-de-sac where the mailboxes all matched and the neighbors took turns pretending not to see each other. My living room had my bookcase, my plants, the framed print I bought in college because it made me feel like I understood art. But the entry table now held a shallow ceramic dish I didn't own, filled with Mara's rings. A detail, but I noticed it. "You didn't think to tell me," I said, keeping my voice flat. Mara shut the door behind me with a soft click. "You're making it sound dramatic. I'm asking a question." She walked past me toward the kitchen, her slippers silent on the hardwood. "There was a problem. I handled it." "You handled it with my house." She paused at the kitchen doorway and turned, like she was offering her face to a camera. "You're good with money. Mara always did that, arranged herself even when no one was watching. She'd been the kind of teenager who could cry without blotching her makeup, the kind of adult who could throw a sentence like a stone and keep her hands clean. "Don't start," she said. "I'm exhausted." I exhaled once through my nose and followed her into the kitchen, where she'd laid out her laptop and a stack of folders like she belonged there. Mara was my younger sister by 2 years, and by temperament, she was older than me by 10. She spoke in conclusions. She hated uncertainty. She believed confidence was the same thing as being right. She'd moved in 3 months earlier. Not because I needed help. Because she needed a reset. That's what she told me at my dining table the night she arrived with 2 suitcases and a carry-on stuffed with shoeboxes. She'd said it while scrolling her phone, not looking up. Like the words were a script she'd used before. "I just need a few months," she'd said. "The place is too small for me and Nate. And honestly, it's not safe over there. You know what the neighborhood's like." Her apartment had been in a perfectly safe complex near the river. But it didn't matter. Mara used safety the way some people used religion, to end conversations. I'd nodded, listened, asked what she needed. Mara had hugged me in a way that felt practiced, her perfume sharp and expensive, and told me I was a lifesaver. Then she started calling my guest room my room within 24 hours. At first, it was small things. The mug I used every morning kept migrating to the back of the cabinet. My pantry shelves were reorganized into labeled bins. She replaced my soap with hers and said mine smelled like a motel. When I objected, she'd laugh like it was a joke I didn't understand. "You're so sensitive," she'd say, smiling at the air. Then it became less small. She asked for my Wi-Fi password and changed the network name to something that sounded like a boutique. Mara Home. She began inviting people over without asking, coworkers from her marketing job, her friend Tessa, who filmed everything for her content, sometimes Nate, who was mostly arms and silence and always acted like he was appraising the room. At first I told myself it was temporary, that family meant tolerating friction, that Mara would find her own place, and this would become a story we told at holidays with a soft laugh. But Mara didn't treat my home as temporary. She treated it as a stage. The first public joke happened at my cousin's birthday dinner. We were at a long table in a restaurant that served food on wooden boards and had a neon sign that said "Good Vibes Only." Mara wore a cream blazer and held her phone above her plate to take a picture before she ate. My aunt asked how things were going and I said, "Fine." "Work's busy." Mara leaned in and said, loud enough for the whole side of the table. She's being modest. She's basically married to her mortgage. A few people laughed. I smiled once, minimal, and took a sip of water. She bought that house like she was buying a pair of shoes, Mata continued. No husband, no co-signer, just her and her little spreadsheets. More laughter, bigger. I didn't correct her. I didn't point out that I'd bought the house after saving for 8 years and after 2 promotions and after telling myself, quietly, that no one was coming to rescue me, so I should learn to rescue myself. I let her have the moment. In the car afterward, Mara said, "See? They love you. You need to loosen up." I looked out the window at the streetlights and didn't answer, because I knew she didn't want an answer. She wanted permission. Then she started saying things in my house the same way she said them in public. She began referring to the second bedroom as my office because she set up a ring light there. She told the neighbor across the street, Mrs. Frankel, Klein, that she was helping me manage the place because I was not great with home stuff. Mrs. realizes, Klein smiled politely when she told me that, as if it was an innocent misunderstanding. I corrected it gently. I manage it fine. Myra heard me and laughed from the hallway. You manage it like a bachelor. I'm not a bachelor, I said. Exactly, she said, like she'd won. I learned to keep my responses short, not because I was afraid of her, but because arguing with Mara was like arguing with smoke. She'd twist the shape of the conversation until you were coughing and she was still breathing. I focused on work. I worked in compliance for a mid-sized construction firm. Mostly contracts, documentation, things that didn't move unless they were signed properly. People thought that meant I was boring. It meant I had patience, and it meant I understood the value of paper. The Tuesday she changed the locks, I watched her place her palm on the folder stack beside her laptop like she was about to present something. What problem? I asked. Mara lifted one folder, tapped it twice. It's a situation. I didn't want to stress you. You changed the locks without telling me, I said. That's the stress. She rolled her eyes. Slow. Can you not do that tone? It's my normal voice. Mara opened the folder and pulled out a printed email chain. I recognized the header format. My bank's mortgage servicing portal. My name was on it. I hadn't printed it. I got a notice, Mara said. From the bank. My stomach didn't drop. It tightened, like someone had turned a knob. I don't get notices through you, I said. You would if you checked your email more often, she replied smoothly. You've been so busy, and you leave your laptop open all the time. It popped up. That's not a notice, I said, looking at the paper. That's an email. Mara's smile was small again. Same thing. I read the first lines. It was about an account update request, a change in mailing address, a request to add an authorized contact. My eyes went to the submitted by line. It wasn't my name. I felt the shape of the problem now clear enough to hold. Mara, I said, why is there an address change request on my mortgage account? She didn't flinch. Because I'm helping. You can't just... She leaned back against the counter, arms folding. I can when you're drowning in work and ignoring basic life maintenance. I'm not trying to steal anything from you. I'm trying to organize. Organize my mortgage? You act like it's sacred. It's my house. Mara tilted her head as if she was listening to a child explain something. It's a house, and you're not using it right. I stared at her. Using it right. Like an asset, she said. Like something that can actually build the family. Not just sit here with your plants. My plants were on the window ledge behind her, leaves turned towards light. I'd kept them alive through work deadlines and winter drafts and nights when I forgot to eat. It wasn't about the plants. I knew that. You changed the locks because you put yourself on my account, I said. I didn't put myself on your account, Mara corrected crisp. I requested to be added as a point of contact. There's a difference. There's not, I said. There is, she insisted. And the locks were changed because Nate said your back door sticks and someone could break in. My back door doesn't stick. It does when you don't maintain it, she said, and it sounded like a verdict. Anyway, I paid for it. Don't worry. You paid for locks on my house without telling me. She shrugged like it was generous. "You're welcome." I looked at the folder again. The printed email chain had a timestamp from 4 days earlier. It meant she'd been inside my bank portal, inside my email, long enough to find it and print it. It meant she wasn't improvising shop. She'd planned. I asked, "Do you have a key for the new lock?" Mara's expression softened, like she was offering comfort. "Of course. And me?" She laughed. "Don't be dramatic. I'm asking for my key." "I'll get it to you," she said. "I just need to finish something first." "What?" Mara closed the folder and slid it toward her laptop. "I'm setting up a schedule. Bills, maintenance, the utilities. It's all been a mess." "It's not a mess," I said. "It's a mess," she repeated, and her voice held that image-conscious calm she used in front of other people. The calm that made anyone who got upset look unstable. I understood in that moment that if I raised my voice, Mara would smile and later tell someone I'd snapped. So I didn't raise my voice. I picked up my groceries and unpacked them one by one, slow. Eggs into the fridge, rice into the cabinet. My movements measured. I listened to Mara typing behind me, the click of keys like a small metronome. After a minute, she said casually, "Oh, and I told Nate he could store a few things in the garage. He has equipment for his side projects." I stopped with my hand on the refrigerator door. "Your boyfriend is storing things in my garage now, just to desecrate me from your heart." "Yes," she said, "because your garage is empty." Again, asset, space. "It's not empty," I said. "It has my tools." "You have like 2 screwdrivers," Mara replied, and I could hear the smile without seeing it. I closed the refrigerator and turned to face her. Mara had her laptop open to a spreadsheet. "Columns." Color-coded rows. It looked official, like something you'd trust without reading. "That's my mortgage," I said, nodding at the folder. "It's our responsibility," she corrected. I stared at her long enough for her to look up, annoyed. "What?" she said. "Are you going to glare all night?" I wanted to say a dozen things. I wanted to tell her that breaking into someone's email wasn't help, that changing locks without consent wasn't normal, that putting herself near my finances was a line you didn't cross because you were bored. But I also knew something else. Mara didn't take no seriously when it was spoken. She took no seriously when it was documented. I walked past her, down the hallway, into my office, the small room with a desk and a printer and the file cabinet I kept because my job trained me to distrust the digital world. I sat down, opened my laptop, and logged into my bank portal. Not because I wanted to accuse her, but because I needed to see what she'd done and when. My email showed a new filter I didn't create. Mortgage messages were being routed into a folder called Home Admin. I clicked through the account settings. A new authorized contact request was sitting there, pending approval, with Mara's full name and her phone number. Not added yet. Pending. That meant 2 things. She'd tried, and the bank still required confirmation. Mara didn't know that part yet. She'd printed the email chain and acted like the change was already real, because pretending things were done was one of her favorite tactics. If people believed it long enough, it became truth. I didn't confront her. I didn't slam my laptop shut. I made a folder on my desktop labeled March 2026. I took screenshots, the filter settings, the authorized contact request, the timestamps. I downloaded the account activity log. Then I opened a blank document and typed timeline. Under it I wrote, March 28th, key fails. Locks changed, Mara admits. I saved it, printed it, and slid the paper into a manila folder. In the kitchen, Mara was still typing, humming softly, like she was building something stable. I walked back in, and she didn't even look up. "I'm gonna take a shower," I said. "Okay," she replied, distracted. "Don't forget we have brunch with Mom on Sunday. And wear something nicer. You always look like you just left a meeting." I nodded once, then went upstairs. In the bathroom, I turned the shower on and let the water run hotter than I needed, filling the room with steam, giving me a private space to breathe. I didn't cry. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't rehearse a speech. I stood under the water and made a decision. If Mara wanted to play ownership games, I would let her believe she was winning. for now, because people like Mara got careless when they thought the door was already locked. And I wanted her to be careless. When I came downstairs an hour later, my sister was on a video call in the living room, laughing with someone I didn't know. She looked up at me, pressed one finger to her lips as if I was a guest interrupting her home, then turned back to the screen. I walked past without reacting, went to my office, and began changing every password that had ever touched that house. And in the quiet between keystrokes, I heard her voice carry from the living room, bright and confident. Honestly, it's basically mine now. She doesn't even notice things. I kept typing. I didn't correct her, not yet. Because on my screen, the bank portal had a small button next to Mara's request. Deny, and I wanted to deny more than a request. I wanted to deny her the story she'd started telling other people, so I left it pending, for now. And that night, I slept with my phone on my pillow like a second heartbeat, already planning what to collect next, while my sister, convinced the locks proved something, moved through my house like she'd already won. By the end of the week, she would say it to my face. And when she did, I would stay calm. Because calm is what lets you watch someone hang themselves with their own confidence, and Mara was already tying the knot. By Thursday, Mara stopped pretending the house was shared. It wasn't a confrontation, it never was with her. It was a series of adjustments she made confidently, assuming I'd absorb them the way walls absorb sound. She moved my mail, not threw it away. She wasn't reckless like that. She stacked it neatly in a basket by the garage door, the kind you'd use for dog leashes. My name was written on a tag in her handwriting, rounded letters. Cheerful. I centralize things, she said when I noticed. You forget to check the box. I don't, I replied. She smiled without looking up from her phone. You forget. On Friday, I got an alert from my utility provider, a request to consolidate billing, same pattern as the mortgage, same phrasing, same assumption that proximity equaled permission. I logged the alert. Screenshot. Timestamp. IP address. Then I called the provider, confirmed nothing had been changed yet, and asked them to note the account. Unauthorized access attempt from household member. The representative sounded apologetic, like she was embarrassed on my behalf. I thanked her and wrote her name down afterward. Receipts weren't just documents, they were people. Mara, meanwhile, grew lighter, more animated, the way people do when they think the ground beneath them is hardened. She hosted a dinner Friday night without telling me. I came home to the smell of roasted garlic and the sound of unfamiliar laughter. There were 8 people in my dining room, wine glasses arranged like an advertisement. Mara stood at the head of the table, one hand resting on the back of my chair. This is my sister, she announced when she saw me. The homeowner. The emphasis landed wrong. A pause followed, just long enough. Someone laughed awkwardly. Another said, "Wow, good for you." Mara waved it off. She hates attention. I set my bag down, nodded to the room. Hi, you're late, Mara said lightly. We already ordered. I wasn't invited. She tilted her head. Family doesn't need invites. I went to the fridge, poured a glass of water, and sat at the far end of the table. I listened while they talked about startups in branding and a podcast Mara wanted to launch about modern living. She kept referring to the house as our place, correcting herself only once, theatrically. My place, sorry. Old habits. She caught my eye when she said it, like she was checking whether I'd object. I didn't. Later, while people were distracted with dessert, I excused myself and went to my office. I opened my laptop and pulled up the router log. New devices were connected. Some I recognized, some I didn't. I exported the list. When I returned, Mara was explaining to a woman in a silk blouse how ownership is really about mindset. I mean, Mara said, swirling her wine, paperwork is just paper. What matters is who actually runs things. The woman nodded, impressed. I nodded the date. The witnesses. After dinner, Mara didn't clean up. She never did. She went upstairs with Nate, who had arrived halfway through and acted like the garage already belonged to him. I cleaned quietly, stacking plates, wiping counters. I didn't rush. I didn't resent the work. It gave me time to think. By Saturday morning, I had a folder on my desk labeled Utilities and another labeled Banking, and a third simply called Audio. The audio folder came from something small. Mara had a habit of talking while multitasking. She assumed no one was listening because she didn't listen unless it benefited her. Saturday afternoon, she took a call in the kitchen while I was in the hallway, within range. I didn't mean to record her at first. I just opened my voice memo app to test the microphone after an update. Then I heard my name. "She's passive," Mara was saying. "That's the thing. If you just move fast enough, she adjusts." Pause. "Yes, the house. I'm basically managing it now. She doesn't even know how the mortgage works." Another pause. A laugh. "No, legally, it's still hers. For now." I leaned against the wall and pressed record. Mara's voice stayed smooth, confident, the way people sound when they think they're narrating reality instead of exposing it. "She trusts me," she continued. "And banks are slow. Once I'm honest contact, it's just a matter of time before I handle the refi. Nate thinks we can leverage." Her voice dropped, and she moved toward the living room, out of range. I stopped the recording and saved the file with the date and time in the title. I didn't listen to it again that day. I didn't need to. I already knew what it contained. On Sunday, we went to brunch with our mother, just like Mara had planned, a place with white tables and servers who wore black aprons and never wrote anything down. Mom hugged us both and commented on how good Mara looked. "You're glowing," she said. Mara smiled. "I'm settled." She reached across the table and squeezed my wrist. "Not affection, possession." "I've been taking care of things for her," Mara said. "She works too much." Mom looked at me with concern. "You should let your sister help. She's always been better at the big picture." I took a sip of coffee. "She's very organized." Mara beamed. Later in the car, Mara said, "See? Even Mom agrees." I didn't respond. That afternoon, Mara went out with Tessa to film something for content. I used the quiet to check the garage. Nate's equipment had multiplied, not just boxes, tool cases, a portable workbench, something wrapped in a tarp. He'd used my power outlet without asking. An extension cord snaked across the floor. I took photos, wide shots, close-ups, serial numbers. Then I noticed a clipboard hanging on the wall that hadn't been there before. It held a printed spreadsheet. My address was at the top, below it. Projected costs, potential rental income, estimated resale after renovation. And a name in the corner. Not mine, Nate's. I stood there longer than necessary, reading every line. The numbers weren't random. They were researched. Conservative. This wasn't a fantasy. It was a plan. I photographed the clipboard, then removed nothing. I put it back exactly as it was. That night, I added a new section to my timeline. March 31st, discovered third-party financial planning using my property. On Monday, Mara asked me to sign something. It was printed, slid across the dining table like an afterthought. "Just a form," she said. "For utilities. Makes it easier." I looked at it. A limited authorization. Harmless-looking language, the kind people skim. I read it fully. It authorized her to manage, modify, and negotiate service agreements on behalf of the homeowner. I placed it back on the table, unsigned. "I'll review it," I said. Mara laughed. "You always say that." "I mean it." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "You don't trust me?" "I trust processes," I replied. She stared at me, searching for something reactive to grab onto. When she didn't find it, she shrugged. "Fine. But don't slow things down." "I won't," I said. That night, I set up a call with a property attorney, not to act, just to ask questions. I presented everything as hypothetical. A sibling, shared space, unauthorized access attempts. The attorney listened carefully, asked for dates, asked for documentation. "You're doing the right thing by collecting," she said finally. "Don't confront yet." I wasn't planning to. "Good. Let her keep talking." I thanked her and added her name to my list. By midweek, Mara stopped asking permission entirely. She scheduled a contractor to look at the bathrooms. "I came home to a man measuring my sink." "Oh," he said when he saw me. "Are you the—" "She's my sister," Mara cut in. "I'm the one coordinating." The contractor nodded. already taking notes. I asked for his card. He handed it to me without question. Another name? Another witness? That evening, Mara posted a story online. A slow pan of my living room, filtered warm. Caption, new chapter loading. People commented with keys and house emojis. I watched it without reacting, then screen recorded the entire thing. On Thursday, the 7th day since the locks, I came home early. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Mara's laptop was open on the dining table. She must have stepped away. I don't snoop. But my name was on the screen. An email draft unsent. Subject ownership clarification. Addressed to Regional Loan Officer. The body wasn't long. It didn't need to be. It said, "Hi, there seems to be some confusion regarding the property at. I've been acting as the primary decision maker for the household and would like to discuss next steps. My sister has been overwhelmed and asked me to take over communication. Please advise on transferring authority so we can move forward efficiently. Best, Mara." Then another, closer. Then I forwarded the draft to my own email from her account, preserving headers. I closed the laptop exactly as I found it. Upstairs, I heard the shower turn off. I went to my office, sat down, and added one final line to my timeline. April 2nd. Draft email attempting misrepresentation to lender. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the folders spread across my desk. Screenshots, logs, audio, photos, witnesses, a plan documented by someone who wasn't me. The house was quiet again, pipes ticking, floorboards settling. Mara came downstairs 10 minutes later, hair wrapped in a towel, calm as ever. "Hey," she said, "we need to talk." I met her eyes. "Okay," she smiled, the same tidy smile she'd used at the door days earlier. "You're not the owner anymore," she said calmly. "At least not in the way you think." Then she walked past me and locked the door from the inside. I didn't move, because on my screen, open and waiting, was the forwarded email. And this time, I didn't leave it pending. Mara didn't announce her plan. She curated it. The morning after she told me I wasn't the owner anymore, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, she hummed. She left the house in a tailored coat and kissed the air near my cheek, like we were close enough for gestures to count. I let her. I went to work, did my job, answered emails, attended a compliance meeting about documentation standards, and took notes like my life wasn't quietly rearranging itself. At lunch, I forwarded the drafted email she'd written from her account to my attorney. Subject line FYI. Escalation attempt. No commentary. Just the document, she replied 30 minutes later. Good. Don't respond yet. Let her continue. Is there a date where she's involving others? I stared at the question for a long moment. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Mara. Big family dinner next Saturday. Mom, Aunt Claire, cousins. I'm hosting. Important. Don't be late. I typed back one word. Okay. That afternoon, Mara began laying groundwork. She called Mom on speakerphone from the living room while I was in the hallway, close enough that she knew I could hear. I just worry about her, Mara said softly. She shuts down when things get overwhelming. Mom's voice crackled through the speaker. You've always looked out for her. I'm trying, Mara replied, but at some point I have to step in. I walked past without pausing. On Wednesday, Mara scheduled a walkthrough with the contractor again. This time she invited Nate's friend, who she introduced as an investor. The man wore loafers with no socks and spoke in acronyms. I'll need proof of ownership, he said casually, glancing at me like I was furniture. Mara laughed. We're sorting paperwork. I stood there, arms at my sides, and said nothing. After they left, I photographed the handwritten notes they'd left on the counter, dates, $signs. My address circled twice. Thursday night, Mara rearranged the living room. She moved my armchair out of the corner and replaced it with a bench that matched her aesthetic. She took down my framed print and leaned it against the wall in the garage. It clashed, she said when I noticed. I liked it, I replied. You'll like the update better, she said. That was the night I slept with my bedroom door locked. Not because I was afraid she'd hurt me. Because I wanted to know if she tried to open it. She did. At 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from the small sensor I'd installed earlier that week. A gentle chime. No alarm, just confirmation. I didn't get out of bed. In the morning, Mara didn't mention it. Friday was the day she crossed from implication to performance. She posted a video online, professionally edited this time. Music, captions, a slow reveal of the house, ending with her standing in the living room, smiling into the camera. "Big changes happening," she said. Sometimes stepping up means making hard decisions for the people you love. The comments rolled in quickly. "You're such a boss." "Family CEO. Wish I had a sister like you." "I screen recorded everything." That evening, Mara sent a group message to the family. "Dinner tomorrow at 7. House reveal. Please be on time." House reveal. She didn't ask me to approve the phrase. I didn't object. Instead, I made my own preparations. I printed everything, not just copies, packets, each one labeled, each one dated. I created an index. I charged my phone, my backup phone, and a small recorder I kept for work interviews. I emailed the loan officer directly, not to accuse, not to explain, just one sentence. "Please confirm no changes have been made to my account, and note that any communication not from this address is unauthorized." He replied within the hour. "Confirmed. No changes processed." Account flagged. I added the email to the folder. Saturday came quietly. Mara spent the day cleaning, staging, moving through the house with proprietary confidence. Nate arrived early and brought wine that went straight into my fridge without asking. By 6:30, cars lined the cul-de-sac. Family members spilled into the house with coats and compliments. Mara accepted both, like a host who'd rehearsed gratitude. "This place looks incredible," Aunt Claire said. Mara smiled. "We've been working on it." I stood near the staircase, hands folded, nodding politely as people greeted me. No one asked questions they didn't need to. Mara had already framed the story. Dinner was loud. Wine flowed. Laughter bounced off walls that used to feel neutral. At the head of the table, Mara stood and tapped her glass. "I just want to say," she began, "how grateful I am to have such a supportive family." She met my eyes briefly. "Just long enough. This year has been about stepping into responsibility," she continued. "Sometimes that means making tough calls. But when someone you love is overwhelmed, you don't abandon them. You step up." Mom nodded, emotional. Mara gestured around the room. "This house, it's more than a building. It's an opportunity, and I'm excited to finally be in a position to guide it properly." There it was, not explicit, not yet, but close enough that silence would be interpreted as agreement. I waited. Dessert was served, plates cleared. People lingered, full and warm and receptive. Mara took a breath, as if transitioning to the final slide of a presentation. "There's actually something I wanted to clarify," she said lightly. "Just so everyone's on the same page." She turned to me. My name landed softly on her tongue. I looked back at her. Still." She smiled. "I'll handle the ownership details moving forward. It's already in progress." The room stilled. Someone said, "Oh?" Mara nodded. "It's a process, but it's necessary." Mom looked between us. "Is that true?" I felt every eye on me. This was the moment Mara thought she'd engineered, the one where I'd freeze or fumble or try to explain something complex out loud and sound uncertain. I didn't do any of that. I stood, not abruptly, not dramatically. I picked up the folder I'd placed beside my chair. "I think this is a good time," I said, evenly. Mara's smile tightened, just a fraction. "For what?" she asked. "To clarify," I replied. I looked around the table. Faces I'd known my entire life. People who understood paperwork when it was put in front of them, not when it was summarized. "I didn't plan to discuss this tonight," I said. "But since it's been brought up publicly, I should be precise." I opened the folder. Mara shifted in her chair. I didn't look at her. I placed the first document on the table facing outward. "Nothing has changed regarding ownership," I said. "No transfers, no authority, no approvals, murmurs." I slid the next document forward. "This is a pending request, unauthorized, submitted from my email account without my consent. Mara laughed once. This is unnecessary. I kept going. This is an audio recording, I said, tapping my phone. Dated March 30th. In which my sister states she plans to leverage my property without my knowledge. Mara stood up. Stop, she said sharply. You're embarrassing yourself. I looked at her then. Really looked. She wasn't calm anymore. She wasn't hosting. She was reacting. I turned back to the table. There's more, I said. And that was when I heard the front door open. Someone else had arrived. Someone Mara hadn't invited. I didn't turn around yet. Because timing matters. And everything I needed was finally in the room. The person who walked in wasn't dramatic about it. There was no pause, no announcement. Just the quiet sound of the front door opening and closing, followed by footsteps that didn't hesitate. I recognized them immediately. Sorry I'm late, the man said calmly. Parking was tight. The room shifted. Mara turned first. Her face drained in stages. Confusion, recognition, calculation, all failing to arrive at composure. Why is he here? She asked, too quickly. The regional loan officer adjusted his jacket and gave a polite nod to the table. I was asked to attend. No one spoke. I finally turned toward him. Thank you for coming. He nodded once. Professional, neutral. Mara laughed sharp and brittle. This is insane! You can't just bring a bank rep to a family dinner. I didn't, I said. I invited him to clarify facts. The loan officer placed a slim folder on the table. I can keep this brief. Mara's hand tightened around the back of her chair. He continued. There have been multiple attempted communications regarding this property from an unauthorized party. Those attempts were documented. The account is now flagged. Mom's fork clinked against her plate. What does that mean? She asked. It means, he said, that ownership has not changed, authority has not changed, and any future attempts to represent otherwise may carry consequences. Mara opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I slid the next packet across the table, toward my mother. This is the audio transcript, I said. This is the contractor's invoice request. This is the financial projection created by Nate using my address. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The fact sat there, heavy and undeniable. Aunt Claire picked up a page, reading silently. Her expression changed. Someone whispered, "Oh." Mara shook her head, laughing again, louder this time. "You're twisting things. I was helping." The loan officer looked at her. "You accessed a secured account without authorization." Silence. "And you drafted correspondence, misrepresenting your role," he added, "which is why I'm here instead of responding digitally." Mara's confidence collapsed inward. Not explosively. Gradually, like a structure losing load-bearing support. Nate stood up. "This has nothing to do with me." I met his eyes. "It does!" I slid the garage photos forward. Serial numbers, equipment, planning notes. "You used my property for financial planning without consent," I said. "That ends tonight." He looked at Mara. She didn't look back. The room felt colder. Mom finally spoke. "Mara, is this true?" Mara swallowed. "She's exaggerating." I shook my head once. "No." I turned to the loan officer. "You can go ahead." He nodded. "Given the documented attempts and third-party involvement, we'll be issuing a formal notice. Any further action will be handled through legal channels." He stood, offered a brief, courteous goodbye, and left the way he came. No applause, no gasps, just the quiet aftermath of truth. Mara sat back down slowly, as if gravity had changed. No one defended her. No one joked. I gathered my folders and closed them neatly. "I'll say this once," I said. Calm, measured. "You don't live here anymore." Mara looked up. "You can't." "I can," I said. "And I am." I turned to Nate. "Your things will be boxed tonight. You can pick them up tomorrow." To Mara, "You have until morning." She stood abruptly. "You're choosing this?" "I chose it a week ago," I replied. "You just didn't notice." No one followed her when she left the room. Later that night, after the house emptied and the dishes were done, I walked through each room. I put my chair back where it belonged. I rehung my prints. I reset the space. The next morning, Meryl left without a goodbye. By Monday, the locks were changed again, this time with documentation. I didn't post about it. I didn't explain myself online. I didn't need witnesses anymore. The house was quiet again. Not empty, just honest. And for the first time since she arrived, the door closed behind me without resistance. Exactly as it should.